building permits. Here's what's happening in the Palisades. LA looks at that area and they see these 1910 to 1940 built homes, some of them on a quarter acre or third acre lot, beautiful Spanish style adobe, and they see one or two people in there, either inherited or very wealthy people, and they say to themselves, that's not fair. Why do they get to have that? They don't see, oh, this is a part of historic California. These people work very hard for that. It's a beautiful neighborhood, and now it's gone. And so these people are now applying for permits, and they're trying to rebuild what they had. And the Planning Commission has two modes of thought about it. Number one, well, since that house was built, we changed all these rules. So you have to have this amount of solar, this, and this, and this. And some of them, they don't even know. I mean, they haven't built a home, and they never built a home. They inherited but okay. And then the other is, well, you could have 3 homes on that lot or something like that. And so they don't like the idea of a Pacific Palisades in general, so they're in no hurry to approve it. But the other part of it is they have such strict... I know a couple of builders really well. You know what they do, Jack? They get a guy with a tripod and a camera, and they film how the house is built, every one of them. I put it on autopilot so that when they get done, they know if the person has a complaint, he will say, look at that nail, it wasn't completely put in, or he missed 2 nails here, and then they will find him. And that's the type of regulatory, and when they say we're going to streamline it, they can't streamline it. And then they have another third problem. A lot of the people who are in the Planning Commission, Regulatory Commission, they're sort of like the woman who ran the Los Angeles Water and Power. She made $700,000 a year. She was a DEI hire. She had no interest that a lot of the hydrants were not functional, that the reservoir was empty. There were no consequences. And when you have a lot of DEI hiring, it's not... I'm not going to get into race or ethnicity. It doesn't matter. It's just an exemption that is extended. It's like when people used to complain about rich kids or alumni that were legacy alumni and they got their grandkid into Harvard or Yale or Princeton, how unfair that was. But what they were really saying is that kid thinks that he got in even though he didn't have to play by the rules and make the standards. So then he gets exemption. And once he gets exemption, he has an attitude that he always should get exemption. And why you would take that pernicious model of nepotism and then transplant it to race, gender, etc., and expect anything different than the consequences. So when you hire somebody on a basis of their merit, then you can't say to them, well, you kept to be fired because on a meritocratic basis, you didn't fill that reservoir. You didn't ensure that all those hydrants were working. You didn't have a plan to ensure that the people of Pacific Palisades had sufficient water. They didn't get power afterwards. You can't do that because the person was saying, well, I was hired for particular reasons because of historic racism or discrimination or lack of diversity, so that's what I'm being judged on, and that's not what you're complaining. I mean, I don't, that's not my main job. And they have a sense of entitlement, and they don't understand that. And so that's part of what's happening in LA. The other part is more real and concrete and mundane, and that is he started out in 2024, Jack, with a $76 billion deficit. Now, how can he do that? Gavin, I want you to answer this question if I were to talk to you. You once had a $76 billion deficit. You have the highest income tax rate in the nation at 13.3. At about 60, 70,000, you hit people with a 10% rate. You have about the 8th highest state local sales taxes. You do now have the highest gasoline taxes. Your property tax was limited to 1% under the Jarvis tax initiative, Prop 13. But with these add-ons that local communities do and special waivers and this and that, you're getting about a 1.5. But that's not the point. The average house is so high in its appraisal that the income tax rates for new homes are just about like they are in any other place, in addition to all these other taxes. So with all that money coming in, how in the world can you be running a deficit? And when you start looking at the budget, you start to see, well, we have our $15 billion boondoggle called high-speed rail. We got to pour billions of dollars in. I thought that indigenous people should have their rivers they had 200 years ago, so I wanted to blow up 4 dams on the Klamath. That cost $250 million. I thought we should have $500 million more in health care for illegal aliens. I wanted to extend Medi-Cal to everybody. So of all the residents, citizen or not, in California, 50% of all the births we pay for, and 40% of all the residents, citizen, legal, who cares, illegal, 40% are on Medicare. So when they do all of that, there's no money. There is no money. And what that means when there's no money, there's no margin of error. So you get a fire like Los Angeles, there is no reserve fund to go address it. There's no mechanism that can cut through the regulation. There's no Pete Wilson or Ronald Reagan or Donald Duke Mason said, look, that earthquake, we're going to build that overpass. Here's the incentives. Get it done. There's nobody like that left. And so it is kind of sinking into a third world state. It really is. It's not going to happen. The Olympics are going to be a joke. Yeah. And Pacific Palisades is not going to be rebuilt for years, if ever, like it was. Just not going to happen. And it's high-speed rail is never going to go from Bakersfield to Sacramento with a lateral over to Oakland. It's not going to happen. They don't have the expertise to do it. They don't have the money. They don't have the skilled people to do it. That's beyond. If you said to these people in California, we want you to build a California aqueduct like your great-grandparents did, our grandparents did in the 1963, 60, they couldn't do it. Right. They don't have the ability to do it. Not quickly, not efficiently.
Right.
It's kind of like, to take a historical parallel, it's kind of like the Mycenaean Lion Gate at Mycenae, 20 tons or something, these monumental, and then you had the end of that culture, and during the Dark Ages, say, 700 or 800 BC, that's the beginning of the city-state, maybe even earlier, 1,000 people would walk around and say, wow, what is that thing? Who built that? Oh, I know who they were. Those were gods. That was Hercules did that. Or maybe it was, Odysseus or somebody, or Zeus came down. But somebody I can't explain because I couldn't do it. And that's what we're kind of getting at when I drive and I look at San Luis Reservoir, or I look at the aqueduct. I think there must have been some kind of semi-deity here. Who were these people who did this? Wow. I was driving the 99. We were driving the 99 for 220 miles. And, it was like, it was built when there was about 14 million people, and now there's 41. But there's sections of it where it collapses from 3 to 2 lanes. And I was thinking, wow, they had 2 lanes each direction when you only had 14 million people, and we have 41.
If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our latest content.